we'll sit for about an hour or so. I'll give some guidance. It's up to you. Just do whatever you're comfortable doing. If you want to listen to any of the instructions, that's okay. If you want to ignore me totally, that's okay. I'll never know. I'll never know that you're ignoring me, so it's fine. Ignore away. But yeah, so I'll just give a few like tips or guidance as we're going through. So with that, we'll start the meditation. Take a comfortable seat. Find a position that's relaxed and comfortable for you. Where you feel that your body's at ease, nothing's too overly tight or tense. You can even check the different areas of your body. So for example, your shoulders, or in your face. Just notice if anything's tense or tight or scrunched up. Your jaw. If there's any spots of tension anywhere, maybe your chest or your stomach. See if you can just soften and loosen those areas. Start by paying attention to your whole body, sitting here, this experience of being aware right now, how the body feels, the sounds that are in the room, from outside. See if you can notice all these different aspects of your experience, as simply as they are right now. And whatever it is you're experiencing, might be some kind of agitation that you've brought over from the day, might be a state of preparedness of the mind for meditation. Whatever it is, see if you can drop all those preconceived notions or expectations. Any kind of wanting things to be one way or the other, or go one way or the other. See if you can put all those aside. Just for this hour period at least. And just start to settle into your regular method of meditation, whatever that is. Whether it's watching the breath or observing sensations or thoughts come and go. Whatever it is that you're used to and comfortable with. Just allow the mind to settle in on that. Is there anything coming up in your experience where there might be some resistance, discomfort? Something you don't want, that you may be trying to push away or change. Just as an experiment, see if you can just be with it. Not try to change it or ignore it or push it away. Simply be with it. Being still with it. as you sit with your meditation object, see if you can also notice if anything feels out of balance. Or maybe the mind is moving into either liking or disliking, even subtly. These subtle undercurrents of wanting things to be one way or not wanting them to be another. What would it be like if there was a balancing point between those of wanting and not wanting? Could there be a point of stillness, nothingness? Could there be a point of balance and equanimity? Just try to notice when your mind tips either way.
final few minutes of the meditation, just take a moment or two to re-establish the mind. Just take a moment to reflect on your own situation. How your life generally is. Just by default of being here and being able to sit meditation in this place, you're incredibly fortunate. At this moment, you're not undergoing any severe suffering. Things are relatively good. It's not anything to feel guilty about, or it's just a simple observation of experience. We can think of some of the things in our lives that we're fortunate for. Might be our health, might be our family, our friends. An opportunity you have to do something. Or even just simply that you're safe and well. Just notice if there's any kind of gratitude arising in the heart. And if there is, just allow it to expand throughout your body. And you can also make a determination that whatever's good in my life, may I in some way pay it forward any small way I can. I don't have to fix the world around me, but wherever I can, I'll try to do some good. Try to do something to help others. Have the good fortune as I do. Okay. Hope everybody had a nice sit. If you got any questions brewing, you can ask now.
I might throw
No,
in
there's announcements first. Sorry about that.
I might do that. Thank you, Ajahn. Yeah, a few short announcements on events and opportunities. The first one, there's lunch dana possibility. We still have a number of lunch dana opportunities in August, both here and in Newbury, which is a great opportunity to offer, particularly as we are making our resolutions here for Vasa. You can do that on the website. You can book a place on the website, bsv.net.au/lunch-dana. Next one, this Sunday the 3rd, there's a lay sutta discussion at 12:30 here upstairs in the library. Tomorrow night there is a led meditation, a lay person-led meditation at 7:30. And this Friday night, third session by Ajahn Sādaro of Discover Buddhism, which is is part of the 4-week course, let's say, which is great. Last but not least, Saturday the 2nd of August, so this Saturday, is the monthly in-house meditation program. Sunday's talk will be by Ajahn Sarano, and then the Monday after that. So same as tonight, will also be by Ajahn Nisarano. And that's it.
Nice.
Are there any questions?
I think Ajahn Nisarano is doing the Saturday meditation as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, just as a note.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Hang on, we'll pass the mic over. God, everyone's leaving. Nobody wants to hear the questions.
I
yeah.
have two questions.
Yep.
I guess maybe it's because I'm still early
Yep.
in my meditation journey.
Yep.
So when I do it for, I guess, long durations,
Mm.
sometimes it feels like I'm choking.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's to do with some anxiety
Yep.
I carry around, because when I do think of my anxiety, I think of my heart.
Yep.
And so when I feel that choking,
Yep.
I feel it in my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah. So, how severe does it get, if you don't mind me asking?
It's manageable,
Yeah. Okay.
but it feels annoying, and
Yeah.
frustrating,
Yeah.
and distracting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So obviously, if it's something that it is getting too much, then you need to pull back. You need to just sort of stop. Not stop meditating altogether, but just sort of have a break and say, okay, well that's like enough for now. Obviously, doing meditation for any kind of prolonged period, like different things are going to come up, and obviously, usually when we're operating in the world in a general way, things come up for us. We can find ways to offset that in some way. Change our, go and do something, and so we don't feel bad. But obviously, when you're meditating, it's like, no, I'm just sitting here with my eyes closed. I can't really change and do anything. So that can allow things to build or feel like it's building in some way. So I think there's this kind of, you have to have like a comfortable ground of like working with it a little bit, and just sort of being with it and going, okay, well, this, what's this thing like? What's it feel? What's this feel like in my body? Can I just be with it for a moment and not react to it? Can I just sort of see that it's something that's changing and moving? Can I do those things? But then if it does get to the point where it's actually, no, like this is too much, you just stop. So you want to work with it enough that you're comfortable with, and you're pushing the boundaries of it like just a bit, but you don't want to go too far. So the way I kind of think about it is to say, if like that's your max threshold level, you want to sort of get to this point where you're like just sort of working with it a little bit, and like, maybe even like going past it just a touch, but you don't want to go too far past it where it's like you're moving into kind of like panic or something like that. Because and if you do that, it does like generally get a little bit better, and it's done in this kind of patient way where you're not pushing yourself too much. Because what tends to happen is, let's just say, like, again, that's our like threshold kind of thing. Usually we get up to about like here, and we just go, oh no, it's getting bad again. I want to like pull back from it. What happens if you do that though is like this sort of like moves back, and so there's less and less you can deal with. But if you're sort of just going a little bit, like just again going up, working with it just a little bit and pushing past it, this goes further. So it's, as I said, it's just about working with what's comfortable. And if it is really like getting too bad, you just like you stop, you pull back. But it's also, one thing to remember is like a lot of people do have, again, when you're starting off with meditation, a lot of people do have things that aren't comfortable, things that, that are sort of like somewhat distressing, and everyone's a little bit different about how they'll deal with it. But so it's like you're not alone. These things like meditation's not always easy. it's not always like, oh, okay, I'm doing this because I thought there'd be like birds landing on my shoulders and like and make everything in my life good and all these kinds of things. And so, oh no, I'm going to sit here for a long time and there's pains all in my body and starting to like feel intense. So yeah, it's, as I said, work with it enough, but don't go too far. Like don't push it too far. If it's getting too much, you just stop kind of thing. There's no, yeah. So does that make sense? Or, yeah, cool.
Thank you for
No
that.
problem.
And just my second question.
Yep.
I've been thinking since your session on Friday.
Yeah.
On your emphasis on how meditation is like stillness. It feels like stillness is the opposite of being very reactive to things.
Yeah.
But I'm just a little lost sometimes because when I try to bring, I guess, the idea of stillness in my life, in my daily life, it feels like there's like this conflict of identity because sometimes it feels being reactive is who I am
Right.
for certain things, you know, whether that's humor or just generally even anger or sadness. So just I guess a little lost in that.
Yeah. So by that, do you mean if you don't react in certain ways, then that's feeling sort of incongruent with who you are in some?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
This feels like, well, am I acting now? Am I pretending?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And, this idea of stillness sort of feels like you're maybe being sort of incongruent with who you are in some way because you're not doing something that you would normally do. Is that sort of right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so so stillness, this idea of like stillness and coming to this kind of point, it is something that takes time, obviously, and it's not something that great, I'm just going to like get this stillness thing, and then all of a sudden it's like all the other things in my life will just turn off, like all the things about the things that I like, the reactions that I have, the as you said, even sometimes the anger or like trying to be funny or something like that. It's not like you'll become still and all that will just like drop away, but it might be a kind of temporary stillness, getting a break from it. And, what that's pointing towards is just showing you, there's times where it's appropriate to react and there's times where it's not appropriate to react. So sometimes you just react out of habit, obviously. Other times we might react with a kind of, like clarity. So, what we're trying to get to somewhere in meditation is a kind of stillness where we can sort of see, okay, well, this is how the mind would move, and this is how, how essentially I would react. Is that the best course of action now? Is that something that's skillful? Is that something that's useful? Or is that something that's like unskillful and not useful? So look, reacting like in a way where you like tell a joke or something, it's like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. If you're like me, you tell bad jokes and you end up offending people. So it's like, maybe it's not good sometimes. I tend to do that a lot. We can sort of see, well, sometimes reactions, sometimes these reactions are good and we can follow them. It's fine. Sometimes they're not so good. So it's not like you have to sort of like fundamentally change who you are just once you become like still in some kind of way. It's just sort of giving, I think in some way, and just building on this, is in some way it's like it's allowing actually who you are to come out in greater clarity. Because if we're just reacting, like a lot of the times we're just reacting and responding, and it's, that's sort of like not sort of who we are. But if we can like drop that kind of reactivity, it's like, oh, actually, well, this is sort of like more who I am, and this is more who I want to represent myself to be. So in this way, I don't think, like obviously, it can sort of feel incommensurate in this way where it's like, I don't like. I would usually do this thing, but I'm not doing this thing now. So, obviously when you're starting off, it's like, oh, I just don't react to anything. But there's this point where you can get to where it's like, actually, this is something I should just react like naturally and normally to, and actually that actually is like deeply who I am, as opposed to sort of reacting in a way where it's like, I'm just trying to react to this situation and be something. So it's something, again, it's something to work with over time. It's not something where it's, all of a sudden, as I said, all of a sudden you're going to be still, and now like you've like switched off who you are. But it gives you this kind of break from, this kind of reaction. So yeah, does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Good question.
Might throw in a question from online.
Yep.
From Italy. When we have a lack of trust in ourselves because we did something wrong in the past, and now we are afraid to repeat these mistakes again in the future activities. Actually, that's where the sentence stops. I think I'll just finish.
Yep.
What do we do?
Yeah. So if you were here, I'd sort of ask you like the context, a little bit more of the context, because obviously it's there's instances where we've done something kind of wrong, and we've done something wrong, we've made some sort of mistake, and we've grown, hopefully we've grown from it, and we do need to let the thing go. There's other instances where it's like we've maybe done something wrong, and maybe we in some way we sort of haven't made amends properly for it, or worked through it properly, and it's maybe not letting it go is something where it's like, well, I need to work with this thing more. So it's hard to say exactly, like depending on your situation, kind of thing. What sort of should be done here. Now, so I can't really give a definite answer, but what I can sort of reflect on is that, if sometimes, we have sort of done things in the past and it's been painful for us in some way, then obviously there's usually a resistance to go back into that to that situation again, because we have like evidence that it was painful. So like I was saying with the meditation before, with this element of only going up to like what you're comfortable with, but sort of like getting up to the point where it's like you can try to like push on it a little bit in just a gentle way, and see if you can move through it just a little bit, but then you sort of come back, and we can try to work with this something that we feel is maybe has been painful for us before, but we think is maybe a useful thing to do later. So I think it's something you have to like gently and gradually work with over time, and again you just have to like push up on that like limit, but don't not going too far. If it's something that's that was painful and you're up on that limit and you try to push yourself too far past it, it's like you just sort of like spiral. But if you're just sort of working with it, and it's like, okay, can I this thing that was painful, can I just be with it? Can I be with it? Can I work with it? Can I find a way out of this? I think this is usually, and I say usually here, usually like a healthy way to deal with things that are confrontational or problematic for us. So I think I'd say the kind of take home is like, yes, whatever sort of like coming up in this way, just do it slowly, do it gently, but do try to work with it a little bit. You don't want to be doing this thing where you're just like pushing the thing away, or where you're just trying to ignore it or anything like that. That can work temporarily, and sometimes you just need to do that. Sometimes if it is bad, you need to, I don't know, just don't do anything, go for a walk, go for a swim or something, I don't know. But when we're trying to work with it from a contemplative lens, as I said, it's something we're just trying to push up against in this kind of gentle way and work with and be with, and then see what the actual experience is. And then through that, hopefully we can sort of start to like release and let it go. But yes, so without knowing too much about the exact kind of situation, that's probably the kind of the general thing I could say about that now. So.
Any more questions?
Yeah, hey.
How are you?
Yeah, how's things?
Good. I think I was following the vein of the first answer to working with something that's coming up and bringing up lots of reactions.
Yep.
For this meditation, mine was more physical, like
Yeah.
my leg was just on fire.
Yep.
And I've worked on positions and
Yep.
breath, and I'm just thinking from an approach point of view, when you're trying to go to the center of something like that it feels like you're just in the middle of a firestorm.
Yeah.
And I can stay with the breath, but part of what comes up in the middle of that is, are you pushing yourself into a zone you don't need to be in?
Yeah.
Is this a pointless pursuit?
Mm.
Do you have any reflections or experiences through, trying to get in that physical barrier to the body during meditation?
Yeah. Well, so like, all of it, anybody that's been practicing a long time, like, had to deal with this. And it's actually it's a big part of when you're doing like longer retreats and things like this. And just how do you deal with the kind of physical pain in the body? And but it really is this kind of thing where it does depend on essentially the strength of your samadhi. Like the strength of your samadhi will sort of determine how well you can deal with it. Now, so by the strength of the samadhi, there is that kind of thing where it's either withdrawing away from it, or it's a samadhi of going deep into it. So without that kind of strength of samadhi and the calm, it is harder to deal with it, because you'll be sort of you're pulled around by it. Now, this isn't to say that you can't do this if you don't have good samadhi. Obviously, you part of the process is trying to work with it. So I think there's that kind of element. Well, sometimes going into it is a good thing, and sometimes you feel like you have the mental fortitude to be able to do that. Sometimes it's no, I can't do this. I just have to try to retreat back into the breath or something. And sometimes it's okay, it's just it's so bad. It's so bad now. I just got to change. Basically, just got to change position. There's some really nice. If you read, there's a few books by Ajahn Brahm, and one of his big things was sitting with pain, and how basically that he did this thing where it's he sat and just the kind of the waves of pain. The waves of pain of okay, you start sitting, and in the first 4 hours, it's you hit this first 4 hour of pain, and it's this is insane. I can't deal with this. This is no way. Everything in my body is going to break apart. And you sit with it. You just sit with it. You don't move, and then eventually, all of a sudden, it's it breaks away. But that's only the first 4 hours. Then, in another couple of hours, it's it comes back again, and it's worse. It's you thought this was bad. It's no, this is bad. This next, after now what, 5 hours. Yeah, it's really bad. It's terrible. And it's and again, and everything sort of drops away. It's I basically thought I was going to die then. But then the next wave comes, and it's just as bad. So there's
and to I don't want to actually like jump off the cliff there. That was like basically he's actually somebody that overcome it. That was basically did that so much. It's like, yeah, just like I can see it now. It like when it arises, I can see it like just break away because I've gone through those, more, the extremes of it. Now, this isn't to say that you become masochistic about this in any kind of way, and I'm just going to sit here in pain and all these kinds of things. But it is like something that you can work with, and you can work with in like a smaller way. But again, just in that kind of thing of like, I think is that kind of, well, this is my limit. If I can just go a little bit past my limit, like I'm progressing. But if I'm always like stopping before that, like I'll actually regress. So I think just being sort of sensible with that. Sometimes we do get a little bit too intense about it and go, yeah, I'm just going to punch through this thing. Or sometimes we just get a little bit like cowardly about it as well. And it's like, I don't want to, I've got a pain, I need to move kind of thing. We don't want to do either one of those two things. We just want to work with it in a wise and reasonable, in a reasonable way. And so it's, but yeah, it does depend a lot on your samadhi, how well you can deal with it. If you got the samadhi there, it's not too bad. But yeah, if the samadhi isn't good, then it's like, then you're just sitting with a lot of pain. So. We've got time for one more. If there's one more online, or
there's no one online.
No one online? Okay. If that's the case, then we'll call it a night. Good to see everyone. Thanks for sticking around. And see you when I see you again.